Are you able to record too, and
No, no, I'm not recording, but I am on my phone.
okay.
Watching
Okay,
this
so
on
we
my.
have the audio. Okay, well, it's recording right now, so we'll have to edit this out. So, hello everybody, welcome to UFO Secret Space. It is recording. I think it says it's recording, but normally I know, I'm on my iPad, so it's recording to the cloud. Let me see if I can also record on my, bear with me. And last time I was on both places, so I think I can record on my computer as well. So one more tech thing. So we're
Janet,
recording both to the cloud.
there's not.
Yes.
Earlier, it was saying that we're. Oh yeah, right there. There's a low bandwidth on your end. Your internet connection is very low.
I'm in a jungle. What do you want?
You're cutting out. That's what I'm saying. You're cutting out. Do you want to call in or something?
I did call in. You're on twice. That's probably why it's low bandwidth. You're on twice.
Okay, see if that helps.
Okay. Yeah, because you're on twice. Bear with this, Mike. And I'm going to take off my video. So that's.
So how did you find out it was Homeland Security?
Andrew did somehow.
How did you find that out, Andrew?
No, I'm telling you, I was on my email, and all of a sudden I hit something, and there's nothing in my email that has to do with Homeland Security. All of a sudden, a page on the U.S. Customs and Borders and Homeland Security came up out of the blue. So I didn't, and I don't know what, just the page came up on that. That's all.
Well, that's an offshoot of the Central Intelligence Agency, which I've had dealings with now basically my entire life, and I know they don't like me talking about certain things.
Right.
Janet, do you want to attempt to put do you want to do the audio on conference call? Yeah.
That's okay. We're not doing anything wrong or dangerous or bad, so we have nothing
I'm not worried. I've had dealings with CIA and FBI and all kinds of stuff, and believe you me.
Okay, that video's off. Okay, let me try recording, but because I found it over here, so we're gonna record. Okay. All right, let's just start. I think we're recording. We'll figure it out later. Ready?
Here we go.
Hi, everybody. Aloha and welcome to UFO Secret Space. And I'm your host, Janet Carol Lesson, with my co-host, Andrew Aloha. And our guest today is Michael Macintosh. And I would normally navigate to his bio and read a little bit more about him. This is Michael waving. But I don't want to risk navigating away and losing the signal. So we're just going to have, first of all, Andrew, say hi to everybody so we can do a sound check. We're recording. Say aloha, Andrew. Andrew, aloha. Say
aloha.
Who are you, Andrew? Aloha. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Aloha.
Who you?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Who are you talking to? You're cutting out really bad.
I keep going in and out, so you guys are gonna keep carrying.
Let me try something. Because this is not working very well.
No, because we got me on twice, and you were on twice. I'm gonna try something.
Michael, are you still there?
Shutting off my video.
I'm still here.
Yeah, sorry about the
Janet, are you
text.
still there?
I'm here, yes.
Michael, you're still there, right?
Okay.
Yep.
I know. Okay, let me try.
I turned off
try
my
this
video, so that
differently.
should help.
I'm going to
turned
get off my
video.
computer and I'm going to go onto my phone
Okay, do you have the number?
and see if that doesn't work better.
Do you have the login number for the for this meeting? Yeah, I sent it to you via email. So you have the correct login. Okay, try that.
Because there's a lot of bandwidth in, but something's not right. Aha. Janet, are you there?
I am, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna go onto my phone.
Go for it.
See if that doesn't work better.
Okay, and then you'll cut off all this extraneous stuff when you edit the video, if I can get it to you.
Yeah, you're cutting out so bad I
Sorry.
can't even understand you. All right,
Okay.
here we go.
Okay, so Michael, I think what we're gonna do is I'm not gonna have my video on.
On a cloudy day.
Okay, so Andrew, I see you. Okay,
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
we can hear you. Okay, good. But I still see you on the other one. Oh, there it is. That disappeared. Okay, so now let's try again. You ready now to start?
Yeah, because am I still there?
You are. You're here.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to do the intro once again. You ready?
Okay.
Get relaxed. Okay, everybody, aloha and welcome to UFO Secret Space. I'm your host, Janet Lesson, and my co-host is Andrew Aloha, and we are broadcasting to you from the Aquarian Radio Network. And our guest today is Michael Macintosh, and I'm going to let him tell you about himself, because I don't have his bio in front of me, because I'm on Zoom. So let's do a little sound check here. Andrew, hi. Say hello.
Aloha.
Can you hear me? Okay. Andrew, say
yeah, I can barely hear you for some reason. I don't know why, but I just thought I'd tell you that.
Well, bear with it. We're going to have Michael do most of the talking, then we'll ask him questions. So we're getting a strange picture from you. So just... I can hear you from my phone.
Okay. That's better.
So welcome to the show, Michael Macintosh. Welcome back. You've been on the show a number of times. So,
yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me again.
Can you hear Michael? Oh, thank you for coming back. So, Andrew requested to talk to one of the time travelers. And I said that I had you on my show. And Andrew's come on as a new co-host, and he's going to be doing a number of shows with me on different days of the week. But when I said I was going to talk to you, he said, oh, yes, I'd love to be on that show. So how about we'll start with a little bit of background on who you are and how you got involved in the programs and which programs you were involved in. And we'll listen to you for about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll start asking questions. So take it away, Michael. Okay,
great. Well, I am not from the future. I was born in August of 1974. Let's see, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. When I was 4 years old, my parents took me and my sister to Western Canada to live for almost 2 years. And when I was 5 years old, I was camping in the Rocky Mountains with my parents and my sister and some friends of theirs. In the middle of the night, I came out of my tent and I was looking at the sky, and it was a wide open space, and something appeared in front of me, above me, really. It was in front of me, it was like a ledge. I was looking over. It was a gigantic plain area. And in the sky there, about 200 feet above me, there was a gigantic craft. It was literally about the size of a city block. I stared at it, kind of not really knowing what it was, what I was looking at, and it shot off, disappeared. And that was my first encounter with anything sort of out of the ordinary for any 5-year-old person. And then a few weeks later, I was at home in our kind of like townhouse that we were living in, or renting in Calgary. And I was in the middle of the night again, taken out of my room by some method that pulled me through the wall and into a craft that was being piloted by some beings that we in modern culture call the gray aliens. They took me on a journey that lasted thousands of years, tens of thousands of years even. And I got to see a lot of points of history, future history, past history, and not just in our planet and civilization, but in other parts of the universe. I was then put back into the very same night that I was taken from, after being, I assume, age regressed into a 5-year-old child. And after that, I had a relatively normal childhood until a few weeks later, a few months later, really, early the next year. I was then taken from my kindergarten class in Calgary and teleported from a warehouse in Calgary to a building in El Segundo, California, where I met Barack Obama. I was subsequently teleported from there to what I believe was a place that is an underground cavern on the surface of Mars, where I was used because of my parapsychological abilities that are inherent to remote view the surface of Mars and ascertain that there had once been an advanced civilization on Mars, and that there is indeed still intelligent life on the surface of Mars. And while there, I also met another future presidential candidate who I believe is a person who will actually be president in 2032, named Andy Bishago, who was there with another person who I later figured out was my then future self. Okay, so we were there for a few hours at most. We went back down into the cavern after exploring the surface of Mars and nearly being eaten by creatures that are up there. We teleported back to California, and then I was subsequently teleported back to Calgary and put back in my classroom, where my mom picked me up at the end of the day.
So now let me ask you this. I know you want to tell the whole story, but otherwise I'll forget if I don't ask now. First of all, when you went to all these thousands of years of traveling, what kind of Earth time did you spend doing that before you left or after you left and came back?
I'm sorry, could you explain that?
You were teleported and traveled, space traveled to all these places for thousands of years. How long did that take in terms of Earth time to do that?
Well, it was in our years, I suppose it would have been, I'm guessing, roughly 100,000 years.
Well, no, I've heard of super soldiers. They came in and they were on a bed sleeping, and they were woken up, and within 20 minutes, all this took place. They were teleported to Mars. They learned how to fight. They defended Mars. Blah blah blah, and then they came back. They spent like 30, 40 years, 50 years out in Mars. In the military there, Mars military, whatever, and then they were brought back, and then all that took place within 20 minutes.
Right. Well, you're confusing two different things there, because the time travel that I experienced had nothing to do with Mars or any Mars.
I hear you.
That our government has nothing to do with government or any branch of the government. It's way above what the government has any access to or capability of. So perhaps if there are things that the government is trying, they're basically just a pale imitation of what other civilizations have already been doing and are able to do.
Do you know which species had taken you and transported you to the future? Which species was that?
Yeah, it's the ones that we call the Greys, or Zeta Reticulans, or whatever you want to call them. But the ones with the big heads and the 3 fingers, right, and the glow in the dark kind of thing, you know.
Did they tell you what it was about? Did they explain to you anything?
Yeah, I mean, not through. They communicate through telepathy mostly. They don't really have verbal communication. So anything that I was communicated was either through thoughts or emotions. And but yeah, they did explain to me a lot of things and why I had been selected for this, and that it had something to do with, not necessarily that I was anything out of the ordinary or special kind of person or anything like that, but that I'd basically been selected for some kind of training that I would then use at some point in a way that would greatly help mankind and help advance our civilization. And I believe that was sort of the first indication that I would end up in a position perhaps like President of the United States or something to that effect. There are other indicators.
They typically take people, Michael, they typically take people because they do have some kind of special abilities or genetics. And I just wondered if they said that, and often they tell people they take that they're special in some way. It's one of the messages they get.
Yeah. Well, I think
but you didn't get any indication like that?
Well, you know, everybody has their own special qualities, really, when you think about it. And if you really think about it, all life and all humans especially are special. So to say that I'm special and other people are not would be inaccurate.
I don't mean like that, like a vanity thing. I mean that they're looking for certain genetics that have ability to, maybe you can travel in space without harm, or you can communicate them without having to have a universal trust. That's what I mean. Some kind of abilities you have based on your genetics that are important to somebody else.
There was nothing really like that, no. When I was asked to work with this project that was a DARPA project later on, which is CIA, I was asked certain questions that led me to believe that they were looking for someone with certain characteristics and from a certain background. But when it came to my encounter with the extraterrestrials, it had nothing to do with that. It was, I believe, basically random.
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that Donald Trump was selected. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Really? What?
And I just read it out again, so I just missed that. What was that you said? Donald Trump was selected. I don't know. So go ahead, explain.
Well, I think it just.
Trump to us. I'll never figure that one out.
I think the reason they might have. I think the reason that the ETs might have taken me out of my bed was because I had seen them a few weeks before in the mountains, and they probably wanted to try to make me forget, which happened. You know, I did not remember most of this stuff until much later, after being injured, after having an accident, and sort of being forced to come to terms with trauma in my life in order to heal from an injury. I sort of accidentally uncovered all this stuff that was buried in my mind.
Now you're saying that Barack Obama was also jumped to Mars. He also went to Mars as well. Is that correct?
That is what I believe. Yes, I've witnessed. Yes.
So that is true. Because I remember I interviewed Andrew Basaggio, I think last year or the year before, twice over, and he mentioned that, and I didn't know if that was how true that was, but anyhow, this is a second confirmation of that.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that everything that Andy is saying also, he's telling you the truth. You know, I want to give credit to him as well, because he, coming back in contact with Andy, after I believe having encountered him numerous other times over the course of my life, and Obama, getting back in touch with Andy and really actually having a lengthy conversation with him was what really triggered these memories and kind of forced me to dig deep within my own psyche to really figure out what had actually happened to me early on in my childhood, especially because I had suffered from a very serious form of depression for a long time. It very negatively impacted my how well I did in school. I was just extremely depressed, and I could never really figure out why, and nobody else could ever really figure out the root cause of my depression. And I figured out that, well, it was because I had huge chunks of my memory missing, and huge parts of my life experience weren't there for me to immediately access. And I always felt this kind of like longing, you know, to remember, but I couldn't. And I had been depressive for 30 plus years, and I'm not depressed anymore after I started to remember and realize what actually happened to me. So if you find people out there who suffer from unexplainable forms of depression or unexplainable even illnesses and this kind of thing, you know, these people might just be suffering from serious memory issues, and that could be the root cause of their problems.
The memory suppression techniques that you were subjected to were that caused the depression were the ones from the extraterrestrials or the ones from the U.S. military?
I think the ones from the U.S. military ones were probably worse because you know, anything that our military government is mimicking is going to be more primitive than an advanced civilization could be capable of. And yeah, there was no pain involved with the recollection of extraterrestrial stuff, really. But there was severe pain and severe illness and trauma associated with the recollection of things having to do with the government. So yes. Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been hypnotized as well, Michael, with any of this, for any of this?
To really delve into this, no, I have not gone through hypnosis. However, my wife has helped me with regression therapy, and she is an ordained minister, so she knows what she's doing. She's quite skilled, and also comes from a military background, so she kind of knows really what to, like her family are military. She knows what to really look for, and understands a lot of things that an ordinary therapist might not.
Yeah, sounds like you got hooked up with the right woman there now. That's for sure. That helped.
Yeah. Well, she's right here with me, and she's right here with me, and she has her little notebook that she's made on me. And,
all right.
Would you like her to share a few things? What's your wife's name?
Crystal.
Crystal, could she come on the camera? Is she ready to do the camera?
Sure, she can. If she would you like to? I think she'd like to. She's willing.
Okay. Come on
willing and able.
Crystal.
Crystal Dawn.
Oh no way, Crystal Dawn?
Yeah, really, huh?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Is she from Sedona?
What's that?
Is she from Sedona?
She's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, she never used to live in Sedona?
No, I know that Crystal Dawn, I think.
Oh, you do?
I know that Crystal Dawn. It's a different Crystal Dawn, yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, let's see the Crystal Dawn from the Macintosh family.
Yeah, so I'm looking at her notebook here. We started doing the regression in December of 2017, shortly after I had some very lengthy conversations with Andy Bishago. So, once again, I have to thank Andy and give credit to him for putting himself out there and helping me, and probably helping other people as well, come to terms with and address these lost memories. So he's doing a fine work, and he deserves a great big thank you from a lot of people.
That's when I interviewed him, was back in 2017. I think it was April or something like that. And that's where I can't remember where I met him. I think I met him at a MUFON symposium gathering or something.
Yeah, he's a good guy, And even though he's a Democrat, I would joke.
You don't hold that against us.
I don't hold that against anybody. JFK was a Democrat. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
one of the things that I'm getting, because I interact with other extraterrestrial societies, they've been training about what's going on in the universe, and they don't really have party systems in the advanced cultures, right? So I think we're going to move past this party system, which if it doesn't take down the current United States,
we used to be more like that.
What's that?
In the camera, if you could mute or if you could turn the camera off or something when you're not talking, that might be good.
I don't know how to do that.
Noise. I guess you're having allergies.
Yeah,
on your phone, you don't have a mute button?
I don't know where my mute button is for this.
So Crystal's right here. If you'd like to hear.
Okay.
She's right here. Why don't you move into the camera over a little bit?
So, can you hear me? I'm sorry, my video keeps cycling in and out. There's Crystal. Hi, Crystal. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
So, could you share what it was like regressing Michael and some of the information that you gained from the sessions with Michael? And you took good notes. Take away, Crystal.
I don't. Well, it was more just he had said that when him and his family went camping, that he saw weird things. I was just like, well, what kind of weird things? And I kept asking him just like open-ended, non-leading questions until he came to the point where he realized that he had seen a ship, and it was like, oh, well, what happened? What did they do? Did they, what happened? And he's like, oh, well, they took me, and then they took me, I didn't even know where they took me, and they took me for, I don't even know how long. It seemed like forever. And he said that, they dropped him back off, and when he remembered all of that, they were going to come visit him again. And they
did.
Came and visited him again, that split second.
When was that they came to visit you again? When was the last time they visited you, Michael?
Well, the last time.
Given that it's difficult to remember every time that they visit, so I couldn't honestly say, but the last time I remember was not that long ago.
It was literally...
But when they came to visit me again, after remembering, that was
December
of 2017.
Oh,
and
really?
And that was when I believe I was taken back in time to the 1970s to teleport to Mars with Andy Bashago, and to see my then 6-year-old self with then 19-year-old Barack Obama on the surface of Mars. And I believe I might have even stayed back in the 1970s for an extended period of time. So we're seeing something here, I think, that involves a much bigger picture and understanding of the time-space continuum than probably most people are currently able to get their heads around, to comprehend. But like, I think it's all part of a big puzzle that we're all going to eventually figure out,
catch up with.
Once time travel becomes an accepted reality, and I believe that will happen before very long. I believe the existence of extraterrestrials will become an accepted reality before very long also.
From what all the information I've come across, all the time travelers have said that 2028 time travel is going to be commercialized. Do you agree with that?
Well, considering the probability that I'm going to be president of the United States in that year, yes.
In 2028?
Correct.
Got it. And that. Go ahead.
You win in 2024. Tell us how that bothered you, because right now you're not even like on the stage, which is coming up next week for 2020.
2020.
Nobody knows anything about you. How do you?
Well,
how did you come from? You're not even known to.
Well, you might not know me.
You're known in this inside. Well, you're known in the music field, and you're known for this time travel stuff, and I'm getting you out there too.
Yeah.
But you're really, even people like Pete Buttigieg, who's been out for 3 or 4 months, who says people don't know who he is, and Andrew Yang. So you're not a common name yet. How do you go from this relative obscurity to recognition? Do you have any idea? I mean, this is your past now because you've been to the future, and you see the past. Like who's going to be it? So what insights do you have about how do you go from relative obscurity to the president in 4, 5, 6 years?
Well, I wish I were more obscure than I've been in my life, to be completely honest with you, because I can't say that I am obscure, honestly. Maybe you just never heard of me until recently, but a lot of people know who I am and know me for not just my music but other things, and there's no problem.
What are you known for? What are you known for? Like, what circles have you traveled?
Yeah, primarily I'm known as the guy from that band.
So you
right?
have any albums out that you put out?
Oh,
at all?
sure. We've put out about 100 albums in the last 25 years, so
Really?
quite famous. Multi-platinum band called Young Astronauts Club. I learned how to. I started learning how to write music when I was 4 years old. I put out my first recordings as a teenager, and have been doing it ever since. So that's 25 plus years. You know, I'll be 45 in August.
And what's the genre that you play?
There's no such thing as a genre. I think if you try to categorize anything, it's just there's no reality doesn't work in genres. You know what I mean?
Come on, Michael, you don't play rock and roll? What's wrong with you? What's up with that? Right?
Play that too.
Well, I think rock and roll is you know,
Overrated?
no, it's just one thing. I try not to pigeonhole myself into anything. It's just,
Got it.
you know.
So how come I haven't heard of any of your music, any of your albums?
I don't know. How come? Maybe you don't like music. I think that might be it.
Oh, you're funny. Whatever. I used to do a music show. I don't like music. You're funny. Whatever.
Well, do you only shop at Walmart? Is that it, or maybe you?
Oh, it's gonna be like that now. Huh? Okay, fine.
Now,
Don't talk-
boys,
Shop at Walmart. Whatever.
No, I have no problem with that. But
Okay.
if you want to shop
Well,
at
I can
Walmart,
understand how I don't. I haven't heard about your. I'm old, but I didn't much attention lately to what's out there. Okay, so you have a band and you've been out for 25 years and you have 100
Yeah.
albums, and so those people know you and they know you by Michael Macintosh, and you don't
We're
have a
big
name.
with the
Yes,
kids.
you go by that name.
We're big with the kids. hmm People my
Okay.
age and younger. You know, I'm maybe a different generation than you guys, so that might be it. But
Well, I'm a baby boomer.
Mhm.
Andrew, when were you born?
I'm not telling you because
I'm
he thinks I shop at Walmart only. Forget it. I'm not telling you at all. Are
Okay.
a lot of your music is a lot of it on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, you know, our largest audience is people who use the internet. We didn't start until the 1990s, so
Got it. Interesting. And
yeah,
that's where
so-
your the most of your revenue comes from. Is that what you're saying, or somewhere else as well?
Oh, I'm not talking about where I get my money from. That's nobody's business.
Oh, you went into the future and robbed the bank. I see how you are. Whatever.
Yeah, see, you know, this is you're going to make accusations like that. You're not going to get the truth. But.
Yeah, let's go back to the interview. Okay, so what?
Men, you know what I'm saying, Janet. Janet, you know what I'm saying. Men, if they would just get their penises out of the way.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm still trying
you don't even want to talk about Me Too, so don't even go there. Forget it.
Okay, let's go back to the interview.
All
We're
right.
going to talk about Michael's travel through space and time, interactions with extraterrestrials. So one of the things that really excites me, I'm paying attention to the presidential election right now, because I didn't pay attention last time when we got Trump. So I feel responsible on some level, like, gotta pay attention. So we get, and it's not about what party, because, you know, my parents were Republicans. And in the early years, even not Andrew, I was Republican because I wanted to make my daddy happy. So I voted for who he liked when I was a young girl. And that's what young girls did in my generation. I woke up, I'm older now, but that's what it is. So what I realize is I'm an old hippie and I'm a peacenik. And I'd like to see, I think, some basic things the whole planet wants. A clean, green planet that's pristine and doesn't have oceans of plastic. And air that's unbreathable. Andrew showed me an app that you can download to your smartphone, and when you turn it on, it says that your air is toxic, and Andrew was turning it on and said, "Oh my God, air is toxic. Where do I run?" So where do you run when your air is toxic? Where you live, right? You're just gonna breathe in, and it's killing you, right? Now I tested my air in Maui; it's pretty good, but some of these people are breathing air downright.
Funny enough, but the air was actually good today. Amazingly enough, I went into town, tested it. It was good. It was good. Toxic this morning, and then I went into town, and it's good. And I came back, and it's still good. So I'm breathing good air. But
Yeah.
there was a question I wanted to ask, and I forgot. That's why I have to ask questions right away, because otherwise I'll forget them. I was in an accident several years ago, and I think it did something to my short-term memory span. So, but anyhow, Janet is gone for a little bit. I'm assuming she'll be back. Are you back, Janet? No, she's gone. But so anyhow, no, this is interesting because I have met George Bush Jr. I have met what's his name? Bill Clinton. I didn't meet him, but I was in the room in the doorway when he was giving his primary speech, victory speech, and then but I haven't met Barack Obama. And I met Andrew Basaggio. But you guys are making my job easy, because every January I do a prediction show, a psychic prediction show for the rest of the year, and I predicted that Trump was going to become president, even though my tongue was in my cheek and biting my tongue, but yeah, I predicted that Trump was going to become president. So now you guys are making my job easy. I can predict who's going to be president for 2024 and 2032, and I don't even have to try, right?
Well, I can tell you who's going to be president all the way up to like 2080, because I've time traveled and I know these things.
So then you agree that Trump is going to be president for the next in 2020 again? Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. And I know who he's even going to run against.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to tell us that, or you can?
If you give me a minute to say, I can tell you. But
okay.
Go ahead and tell us.
He's going to run against Bernie. If he's going to run against Bernie Sanders. Bernie's going to get the Democratic nomination.
Really? No,
yeah.
That's interesting.
But he's going to lose. He's going to lose to Trump, because by then we're going to have worked out a lot of the issues pertaining to election rigging, which have been a huge problem in recent American history.
Well, kidding. Wow. That's a huge undertaking, because and I was wondering if that's what's going to happen, but I haven't really been able to pick up on that. So that's pretty interesting.
But he's not going to stay in office, right? He gets taken out. Because did you listen to the Mueller hearings today? They said that had he not been president, he would be. They have enough information on him to indict him once he's gone from office. That came out in the Mueller hearings today.
It's possible that he will be impeached, but it's not really going to matter in the end, because he's going to get done what he set out to do, which is to get rid of a lot of the corruption in our government, and we should applaud him.
I don't think he's getting rid of the corruption while making corruption.
Well, maybe he's not trying to, but inadvertently, maybe he is, right?
I think that was his intent from the get-go, was to clean out a lot of the corruption and cronyism and election rigging and gerrymandering and all this kind of stuff. And I think
he's promoting all that. See, that's just
well, he isn't, though.
Crazy. He is. He has the courts booked. They have it so his courts with all his appointed people are allowing gerrymandering to continue. It went before them, and his appointed people said, yes, it continues. You're not paying attention to what's going on.
Well, it continues, but they didn't create it, nor did Trump create that. So
he's admitted it was going to be overturned, and his court-appointed judges allowed it to continue. It could have been overturned. If he really wanted to stop, all Trump has to do is executive order, which he's been showing over and over. So his intentions are not made manifest by his results. It's like Orwellian doublespeak. So what he said, it's the opposite. So what's happening is with this pollution level, there's new reports and it says we have about 18 months, not 12 years, before we reach critical mass for the things that we won't be able to turn around. So we need right now someone to get in there with a straight head. And I think Trump has sold us out to some kind of extraterrestrial species or something. From my analysis, talking to all the experiencers and the super soldiers, is there's an agenda to sell us off because somebody else wants the resources here. So go ahead, you can talk, but I have a different opinion that he's not a white hat. He's actually the dark side of the force. And and you can look at what he's doing by, destroying this country, leading it up to World War III, or the brink of it.
I think that it's very easy to blame him for a lot of things, but these things realistically already existed before he got anywhere near the presidency, and he's just
it's the oligarchy just changes places. This is where you get trapped up in the donkey elephant game. They keep changing places on who's going to be the head, head of the
right. But I think
pile.
I think a mistake that a lot of people on the left are making is, assuming that he's the same as people that came before him, and
no, that's got nothing to do with that. He's nothing like the people before him.
Right, he's not.
That's the wrong assumption, and he's not a good person either. He's just another puppet in a line of puppets, and who's ever the puppet master has an agenda of dissolving the unity consciousness that we were going towards and making us more separate. And united we stand, divided we fall, so we're becoming more and more separate. But if you look at what the evidence is that they were all going to that island that Epstein has, and they were all participating. Trump and Clinton, and they were all buddy with each other, and it was just like a draw of the straw. Who's going to be president? It's like we think that there's something outside of that box, but there's still the box. The Republicans and the Democrats are still the box. What we need to look at is another system, and this is what I'm hoping that you, Michael, and Andrew will come up with another system, which is a higher level of consciousness that will help humanity get out of this first problem that we're going to destroy our planet through pollution. I mean, everything's dying right now. And secondly, find a system of governance that is fair and equitable across the board. Because a lot of the people here on this planet didn't ask to be born, but while we're here, we need to be treated with dignity and not demonized and made into caste, class, race system, which is not an advanced civilization. It's a level 0 civilization. It's not even a level 1 civilization. So that's what intrigues me about you, Andrew. We've had some conversation about how to get outside of this dark agenda, which is destroying whatever dignity you had left. You shouldn't have to be 75 years old and you're a greeter at Walmart, and that's ridiculous. We need to be able to retire and have a livable income. I don't know what I'm going to do if I end up losing this house, because I won't be able to rent an apartment. I'll be living in that tent city, and that's not what you should be doing, spending your life working the system and then end up in the streets or dead. Probably I'll probably be dead because the system isn't working right now. The system is broken.
I agree, but these things can also be self-fulfilling prophecies, and we have choices that we can make along the way, and things that we can learn to make things work out for us as individuals along the way. But I do agree that the system needs a gigantic overhaul when it comes to a lot of things, and there are things happening right now that are making it move forward. And by the time, and by the time 2023 and 24 come around, it's going to be radically different than it is right now. even.
Yeah,
So what are
absolutely.
some of those things? What are some of those things that you're talking about? Because that's too obscure.
Well, for
Something to
instance,
wrap our heads around.
right. We should look at the Bitcoin, for instance, the Bitcoin, right? If you had a Bitcoin in 2011, it cost you, I think, what, 30 cents or something, or for a single Bitcoin. Right now, it's hovering around $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, in a few years, it's going to be worth $100,000.
Wow.
Maybe even by the end of this year, it could be $100,000. In a
No
couple
kidding.
more years, it'll be $1 million for a Bitcoin.
But
And
that
right,
doesn't solve the problem of the poor people on this planet. And
no,
if people are not getting their needs met, that's what leads to war. If you just take it and you extrapolate, needs are not met, people go,
right,
they're running around the planet trying to find a safe haven, place to live. Everyone wants to live. Everyone wants to raise their kids and live in dignity and have shelter and
right.
have food. And so
And the,
this Bitcoin doesn't do anything other than make another, gap in. We need to level the playing field and start over, because this hoarding stuff,
right.
money
And
is the root of all evil. Money creates a disparity between the races, caste, and class. Something
well,
else.
it's
Extraterrestrials don't use money.
Well, and the thing is, it's not even money itself. It's the attitude that people have towards it, and they love it, And those people are so hopelessly addicted to it that we kind of have to give them an alternative and wean them off of it, in a sense, before we can kind of, it's like a heroin addict. If you've ever met a heroin addict, you have to. A lot of times they can't just quit. They have to take methadone for years and years and years, and
So what is the weaning system from money? Because we have been indoctrinated with money
Bitcoin.
for about 1,000 years or so.
Yeah, Bitcoin is the placebo, I think, and it's
Well, there are other
Money.
digital marketing monetary systems as well. So, and you're saying Bitcoin is the most popular one to use? Is that what I hear you saying?
yeah, it's going to be the primary one. It's going to replace eventually all fiat currencies. Before.
Yeah, that's what they were saying in some of the other time travel videos. Now we'll hear a couple of bits of information that may or may not help you, Michael. First of all, I created a new political party called the Ascended Citizens. I don't know if that'll help you, but I'm just telling you. All right. And then the other thing is March 2023, and this is like when I predicted back years ago when in 2008 when Pluto went into Capricorn, I said the whole system is going to be, it's going to hit the fan. Shit's going to hit the fan, right? So and that's exactly what happened. We went into this whole shift with monetary systems, political systems, and even technology, which I didn't know until later on. And then what's going to happen in March 2023 is Pluto is going to go into Aquarius, and that's going to and you're right. You're lucky you're not running for president for next year, because it's going to be a big I don't know. It's just going to be a big puddle of mud. But anyhow, 2024 is going to be the year to run, because things are going to be a lot smoother, a lot better, and we're going to be going into the age of Aquarius 100% in 2025. It takes 150 years for our solar system to go from one sign to the next. The middle of that time frame, from Pisces to Aquarius, was the Vietnam War, World War I, World War II. That was the middle of that energy, of that shifting going on. And the completion will be 2025. And then things are going to be a whole lot smoother after that. So, and I mean, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff happening then. And World War III, if like I predicted back in May 2014, if we would have went to into World War III, it would have been then, or March of 2015, and when Putin was even threatened to go into World War III back then, in those two time frames, and it never happened. I said, if we don't go into World War III, then we're not going to go into World War III for years and years and years to come. Now, one of the time traveler guys said there's going to be a lot of small wars, but World War III is not going to happen for hundreds and hundreds of years from now. That's what I understand. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And we keep trying to prevent World War III from ever happening, basically. And you're right. I think 2025 will be a very special time, because I know if I'm going to be president then, which I think is going to happen, I have some very unusual things planned.
I'll
like
say
things that have never happened before that will actually completely transform the whole planet, not just the United States of America. But
so. With that in mind, Michael, do you consider yourself an ascended master or a saint, or have those capabilities at all?
Well, I tend to think of things from a more biblical standpoint, because I do believe in that. But I think if you were to look at what the Bible refers to as the 144,000, I do believe that I am one of those individuals.
Got it.
That's a personal belief that I have, but
and my understanding is that we pretty much already outlived the history book called the Bible, and we're really on the edge of finalizing that between now and 2025 is what I think.
I agree. I agree that we're very near completing the entire history of that book. Yes, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
What about Revelations? That's the Revelations
finished,
is
right?
Revelations is like about the Third World War and some kind of apocalypse. John was
That's already happened.
Massive destruction.
Yeah.
That's
Well, if you look at what the word apocalypse actually means in the original Greek, it really just means uncovering. So it's a gradual lifting of the veil that has
World
clouded
War
humanity.
I, World War II,
So
World War.
you're thinking he described. You're thinking. I think he was a time traveler. So you're saying, Andrew, you think he was looking at World War II's bombing of Japan?
Yeah, World War I and World War II was all part of the apocalypse, as I understand it.
Well, the word apocalypse just means uncovering. So it's
Exactly.
just, it really is. It's just a gradual, for most people, lifting of the shroud of mystery that surrounds truth. And we see that happening more and more.
He described some bombings, and he described what appeared to be a nuclear holocaust. So are you saying that description was really the bombings in World War II?
Well, I hope so.
Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I hope there's not a bigger one coming.
I don't believe there is. I don't think there is.
If you ever read Revelations, it describes that the planet loses 2/3 of its population, and that Russia and China invade the United States. So it seems to go beyond the current 2 world wars. It seems to describe another war, which involves the United States being taken over and no longer a superpower.
Yeah, that's a common interpretation. But that's just one person's interpretation, and we can't really be dogmatic.
Exactly.
You know.
Let me ask you this, Michael. Is there like a day of declaration, a day that Jesus comes back, or whatever this day is that happens between now and 2028?
Nobody knows the day or hour, as the scriptures say. So.
But do you remember seeing or experiencing anything like that? You don't even have to tell us the time period, but do you remember anything like that happening between now and the next several years?
Well, these things are more of a spiritual nature than people take. People take them to mean literal physical things a lot of the time. And if you look at them in the context of examining it from a spiritual standpoint, in terms of looking deep into the original languages, for instance, you'll find out that a lot of these things written in there are not meant to be taken literal at all.
I hear you.
Yeah. So, you know,
Well,
it's
with that in mind,
it's difficult with that because
do you know who Maitreya Buddha or Benjamin Krem are then? Or
I'm
Sai
sorry,
Baba?
who?
Do you know who Maitreya Buddha or Benjamin Krem or Sai Baba or Joshua David Stone are then? Or Alice Bailey?
No, I don't. I know who Buddha is. I don't know who the other ones are.
Maitreya Buddha is not the same person as Buddha, but, and Sai Baba is considered a cosmic avatar, but that's besides the point. So anyhow, that's interesting to see how this all work out and pan out. So
Yeah, I think you'll find out after the fact, really, that a lot of the prophetic things in the Bible are not meant to be taken literally, but are more figurative, spiritual meanings of things.
exactly.
And that.
So Michael, where does Jesus and Buddha come from? Those the avatars, the advanced ones that have come and tried to, advance humanity's culture. In your belief structure, where do they originate from?
In my belief, Jesus was and is indeed the Son of God.
And who is God?
As we all are.
Well, God is, he's referred to in the Hebrew scriptures as Yahweh, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is.
Yeah, I am what I am, or whatever. Buddha was, I believe simply that Buddha was a prince who had access to the Old Testament and read it. He was a wealthy prince, and he just had the opportunity to educate himself, and that was it. He was an enlightened, educated person.
What about Saint Germain? Michael, do you know who that is?
I don't know about him, but I do know about other saints, for sure.
Saint Germain is probably somebody that you will probably want to connect with, especially if you're in the business of music.
Mm-hmm.
He's like he's been an influence for a lot of musicians. He's part of the Aquarian Age energy pouring through. But that's besides the point.
Interesting. Well, I'll definitely look him up for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of saints, I'm honestly much more interested in guys like Isaac Newton, who I believe was
really?
He was definitely something else.
Right.
If you really look at his work and his writings, or indeed Martin Luther.
I don't know who that is.
Well, he was the founder of the Protestant Reformation.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and the man who basically took the Catholic Church apart, and I think anybody who has the courage to do something like that is my kind of guy. You know what I mean?
You're kidding, right? All right. Well, what about Joel Osteen? Do you know who that is?
Who?
Joel Osteen. He's the guy from Houston with Lakewood Church. He's got a huge following. Right?
I've heard that name.
What about him?
But I don't know about him.
What about him?
He has some pretty amazing sermons that he does. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. Well, I tend to avoid religious figures and this kind of thing. You know, they're not. I'm more interested in ideas and learning rather than sort of focusing on a figure. I think if a person is putting themselves out there as someone to come to that claims exclusive rights to teach about God, or claims to have, to be the only source of higher learning when it comes to God, I think that that person probably doesn't really know what they're talking about, because you can learn about God from anywhere, really.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that, you know, religion really has served its purpose and needs to be done away with, frankly. And that's part of my plan as president of the
To
United
me,
States.
religion is about devotion to someone or something. That's all religion is, period.
Well, I use that word incorrectly, but I should say pseudo-religion. But religion, as the founding fathers meant it, is a personal matter and has nothing to do with an organized church or mega church or
Not necessarily, exactly.
cult or anything like that. And I think that these organizations are obsolete, and as Americans, we should view them as infringing on our constitutional rights to freedom of religion at this point. And something should be and will be done about that sooner or later. And I think I'm the guy to do that, frankly, if I end up being president.
Right. So now, what kind of projects or what kind of stuff are you working on that you would like to relay to the public that would be of interest or benefit to the public right now?
Well, I definitely want to disclose the existence of extraterrestrials to the public. I definitely want to make public every single piece of information that our government has suppressed, accumulated, denied, classified, hidden, buried anywhere. Put it on a gigantic database and make it public. I want to disclose the existence of and make public time travel, because I believe that single technology will radically transform everybody's life if it's made available in so many ways that you can't even think about right now. Imagine being readily able to travel to a future where science and technology have advanced so far that you can extend your life to literally forever and be young and healthy forever.
Right.
Right. Imagine being able to do that just with a simple technology available to you, which is time travel. That's what I plan on doing. I also plan on getting rid of organized pseudo-religion entirely, completely eliminate it from the face of the earth, not just from America, but from everywhere.
And replace it with what? Replace it with what?
What do we need to replace it with?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
For some people, these religions they're social clubs. I realized, once my parents were gone, their Presbyterian church was where they met and did their social activities with a common vision, and it was based around the Bible. And I understand what you're saying, and yet I'm struggling to understand your thoughts around it, because you're a firm believer in the Bible, and a lot of these religions are around the Bible, and I know they warp them and they get all crazy.
Yeah, but any religious organization, any so-called religion that would tell its members to go to war with each other isn't really Christian.
Well, that's why I don't identify as Christian. I've had this debate with my sister and other people. I said, and my brother says, well, you're not Christian. Janet's not Christian. I go, no, I don't identify with a religion that marches off to war. So,
well, then those religions aren't Christian. Yeah, but those organizations themselves are not Christian. You had Mormons killing Mormons in World War II, for instance. You had American Mormons fighting against German Mormons. You had American Catholics fighting against German Catholics. You had British Protestants fighting against German Protestants. You had
man, that sounds like my nephew. What are you talking about? What the heck? He's Mormon. What?
Right. So,
Mormons march off to war.
Those organizations are simply not Christian.
So for every equal and opposite action, there's a reaction. So there would have to be something that would replace it. That's just the way energy works, Michael. So what would replace this, and how, and what would it look like?
Well, I suppose our new religion can be truth. Why don't we try that?
And love, right?
Right.
Okay.
What religion? What more do we need than truth for religion?
Well, that is my religion, Michael.
So what
Love,
is,
of
see,
course.
that's,
Well, truth and love are
so
my
how do we ascertain truth?
and justice.
See, Michael, truth is an abstract concept just like religions are. So one man's truth is another man's science fiction. So how do we ascertain the truth? Is there such a thing as the truth? They'll tell you that the truth is,
Well, truth is self-evident. We hold these truths to be self-evident, right? As our founding fathers say.
You know what it's going to be replaced with, Michael? What religion or religions are going to be replaced with later on? The science of love. That's what I think is going to happen. There you go.
What else do we need, really?
Right?
We need to learn how to respect and love each other and treat each other as we would like to be treated. And that's going to take a while.
That's the only thing that's going to work in order for us to get along with the other species, other beings from other planets and other galaxies who are much more evolved than we are. A lot of them are. That's the only way we're going to be able to get along is for us to really become more God-centered, goddess-centered, and love-centered. I think that's the only way it's going to work. Period. Yeah. Right?
I agree. And if we don't learn how to get it together better, they're not. This is a direct message that I got from these ETs. If we don't get it together better and stop fighting with each other, they are not going to let us have access to advanced technology that could improve our lives.
Exactly.
Because we can't be trusted with it. We can't be trusted not to use it in a dumb way. So.
Because we'll jeopardize and risk their safety and their security if we don't. It's just that simple.
And we could destroy each other, and they don't want to see us destroy each other.
But you're you've seen the future, and we don't destroy ourselves. We have a future full of technology.
Right, but we also have.
That you saw, or do we destroy ourselves? I mean, I saw 24 timelines, and in the 24 timelines, we did destroy ourselves, but they were timelines that the observer can shift into. So you can shift into one where we are in this utopian timeline that you're describing, and the other time travelers that we go to the future, that we have advanced technologies, that we can live to be hundreds of thousands of years old, if not millions. So,
well, we have free choice. Freedom of choice is the gift that, and free will is a gift that every sentient being has. And we can choose this, or we can choose otherwise. We can choose to move forward collectively, because we're going to have to do it collectively.
Exactly.
Or we can choose.
So you said we don't destroy ourselves and we don't have World War III.
Well, we can choose that. We can absolutely choose that. Yes, we can 100% make that choice.
I think you're correct. I think we still have that choice. It still hasn't been 100% completely made. I think we're leaning in that direction, but I think you're right. I don't think that choice has been completely made yet.
But I'm optimistic personally that it will, and
exactly.
I think it's good to remain optimistic. Personally,
just a matter of time.
Yeah, optimism is always the best thing. And wanting seeking for something negative and seeking a negative outcome becomes self-fulfilling. Ultimately, right? That's the beauty of free will and freedom of choice is you literally can choose this, or you can choose otherwise, and nobody's going to force you to do otherwise. And I just want to be part of making, us making
a good, healthy choice.
Yeah, and I think if I end up, I'm really committed to that, and I think if I do end up in office, it's definitely going to make sure that someone who's going to make bad choices is not going to have the opportunity to make them with that amount of power, because I'm not that kind of person. you know, and that's why I'm starting. That's one of the reasons I'm starting this campaign so early, is because I want people to really understand like how serious it is that we put the right people in office. And
Right.
I also want them to understand that, you know, I am that one of those people that could be trusted with that job and with that responsibility. And I will do the absolute best job that can be done with that office, as long as that office is still in existence.
Right. So let me, I got a couple of questions, Michael. First of all, how many jumps have you made that you remember? And then second of all, what do you think of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
How many jumps? Like Jumproom jumps, or?
Yeah, like into time travel.
Oh, into time travel. I don't. You were. How many times did you figure out that I had done that?
Let's see. I think you've been to Mars about 7 times.
During our regression therapy sessions, my wife figured out that I had been to Mars 7 times.
Oh, really? Because I remember Andrew Basaggio said he had jumped, I think, 42 times at least or something like that. But
yeah.
Anyhow, and I don't know how that affects your health and your abilities or whatever, but just interesting to know.
Well, I'm very healthy. I work out, you know, I eat right. I get enough sleep now that Barack Obama is no longer president. So leading up to 2024, I expect to be in prime condition, you know. I'll be 49.
Well, I think you better be. Now, if you want to help you with your campaign, let me know. As long as we're on the same page, then I'm happy to help you out. So let me know. But
Okay.
What about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? What do you think about her and her future?
I don't know.
Or do you know who she is?
Yeah, maybe she'd be a good talk show host or something. I don't really know, but.
Oh, okay. Well, she's been on several already, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, she could be like the next Oprah or something, even, you know. That might
well, you're saying a talk show host.
Yeah.
You don't think she's a good politician?
Wait a minute.
Oh, man. None of my business. I'm staying out of that.
Well, she is an actress, right?
So,
No.
Are
She
you
used to
sure
be a
about
waitress.
I don't know who she is.
Didn't she act at one point?
No, not that I know of. I don't know, but as far as I know, she was a waitress. That's all.
As far as I had heard that she was actually fired.
About AOC? What don't you like about AOC? Let's get specific, because these generalities are weird. I don't understand what the problem is.
I never said I didn't like anything about her. So.
Well, you put a make her a talk show host, and she's a brilliant young politician, and she's talking about equality for all people. So what's wrong with that message? Peace for all people. And part of what she's saying is, and I've been following this, and she doesn't like what's going on at the border, where children are taken away from their parents. So imagine you had to go flee the country because there was an atomic bomb, and you hit the Mexican border, and they take your 2 children away from you, and you don't see them. You don't know where they are, and you're behind these cages, and they're behind cages. That's what she's saying. I don't like that, and I think I can get in line with that. Let's just look at the issues. So what part of that do you agree with? Do you think it's okay to put people in cages and take away their children?
Not to mention she was violently raped as well, and they had
wait,
that.
I can't hear what you said.
I said she was violently raped. Raped. She was raped.
Who was?
AOC.
Who was?
AOC.
No, she wasn't. She was not raped.
That's what they had footage or pictures of her being raped on that
right.
Facebook
she
website.
Talked about that. No.
She said she wasn't.
No, they took it and they made this movie of her getting violently raped. And like, what is appropriate? What is good about that? Why is that appropriate? That somebody can make a fake movie about somebody getting violently raped. See, they were getting off on that, and it's weird. So she goes, "What is it about people?" Now, see, this is called stochastic terrorism. And so somebody's making a video, and they're hoping that somebody takes her out, murders her, or rapes her. That's what's going on here, and that's pretty hideous. And I don't think that any presidential candidate or president should get behind supporting somebody putting out violent imagery about killing, raping, or doing harmful things to another person. So I'm really getting specific about what is not appropriate about keeping parents with their children. What's going on with this whole immigration demonization process? Because people are going to be fleeing even more than they are now. They're fleeing from countries where there's violence. What are you going to do when the waters rise, Michael? Where people are fleeing from New York and fleeing from all the coastal cities because they're underwater. So you're going to have environmental refugees as well as these other political refugees. And so we've got to do something about it, looking from a higher level than just these are people that are bad and evil just because they're brown or black and they're swarming our borders, and that's not what's going on. We need to address the higher level problems.
Okay, Michael, if you were put in Donald Trump's shoes right now, what would you do? How would you do it?
Yeah, I want to know Michael's answer to that, because he's going to be president, and you're going to get this when you start talking about the issues. How do you handle the issues? Yes.
If I were in Trump's shoes right now, I would annex Mexico.
What do you mean by that? Explain what?
Completely.
What do you mean, annex?
Well, at one point, Mexico was indeed annexed. The entirety of Mexico was indeed annexed by the United States at one point, and we gave it back. Now, I think that was a mistake, frankly.
I don't know that you gave it back, but as far as I know, it was stolen, but that's beside the point.
Well, that's a contentious point, but that's a point of contention, and different people agree one way or the other with various things there. But
are you saying annex means you would take it over? Are you
looking
saying
at
annex means you would take it over? What does that word mean, annexed?
Looking at it from a practical standpoint, I think Mexico is indeed a total disaster. I have very close Mexican-American friends. I have friends who came from Mexico to the United States and have told me how bad Mexico was and still is. In fact, my best friend is half Mexican. I'm Irish, but like a lot Irish. But like my
so we
my best friend is half Mexican.
What do you do?
I would annex Mexico. I mean, I look at
Mexico,
it this way.
and what do you do with it? What do you do with Mexico?
Well,
we have the same situations here in the United States now that we didn't have, 10 years ago. We have about 50 to 100,000 homeless people in Los Angeles, and you drive down the highway and there's tent cities everywhere. So we're not any better than Mexico. We're not feeding our people. We're not housing our people. We don't have programs for these people here any more than Mexico has programs there. What are we going to do differently, Michael?
I don't think it's a matter of, I don't think the issue is the programs or lack thereof. I think the issue is the lack of political will in places like California, for instance.
Okay, so what would you do? Make it specific. Those are just words.
Well, I think as long as
concrete, what would you do? What do you mean by?
Well, what I'm saying, I think as long as people are voting for the wrong people, then these things are going to happen, and you have to.
For platforms. I want to know your platform,
Well,
your specific platform.
You're voting for
people
who
do to solve that problem.
Right. Well, the problem.
No, look, we're not talking politics. We're not talking about platform.
Well, if I can't talk.
I think you're onto something, Michael. Michael, I think you're onto something. I think making California, Arizona, and New Mexico neutral zones for the United States and Mexico, where those would be neutral zones where people can operate from both countries and still be fine and be safe. And then they could operate from at least some kind of boundary or a foundation that they can pick themselves up with, and get educated, do jobs that would give them experience, so they can take them back to Mexico and start picking up stuff there as well. So I think you're onto something.
We love Mexico. We love the Mexican people, but the issue is with how the Mexican government, for instance, treats its own people, for starters.
Right.
Secondly, how it treats people coming into Mexico and what it lets them get away with, which is invading the United States illegally and bringing crime into the United States. It's not the Mexican people that we have the problem.
I don't think you're really grasping the issues, because
I totally
those
understand.
are just generalizations and demonizations. So
No,
you've got to get into specifics of how you would change things. When you're talking from generalities, this is what Pete Buttigieg gives. It's like platitudes and just things. Yeah. You're not addressing the issue. How would you do that? What
I think it's really
you do specifically.
I think it's really easy to say that I'm not addressing the issue, but I'm presenting you with facts, and those are
not addressing the issue. Solutions. That's complaints. You're in a complaint mode. You're complaining about
no, I'm not.
This ain't this and this ain't that, and they did that. I'm looking for like Andrew Yang has a solution.
Well, you're not letting me talk, so I can't really.
Because you're just going into this platitudes, like
you're not letting me talk.
Do this and they let in. Okay, I'll let you talk, but I really am. I'm gonna ask you.
You're gonna censor me. I can't talk or get my point across.
Okay, Michael, your turn.
Wait. I'll give it to me, Andrew. But I want to know. Besides,
you're not letting me talk. You're not letting me talk.
What would you actually do
and you're putting words in my mouth and accusing me of things that I'm not doing. So I would appreciate you not doing that either.
Okay, so go ahead, and how would you address these people that are starving, that are hungry, that need education, they need homes, they need, we could change the whole planet if we provided education and, housing and food, and then we start educating the world. Because what the time travelers say is that we end up with one world government. And there's some way we get there. And the border crap is the border crap. Basically, we need people to go where we need people to be. So if we have jobs in Detroit, which is a bunch of buildings and they've been emptied, then let's
we need to knock down a lot of Detroit. We need to demolish a lot of Detroit.
Well, we'll send them to the cities in China that they built in these massive cities. I mean, it doesn't matter where. When you have one world government, you find a place to house people. But the important thing is to get them off the streets and give them the basic needs of humanity, which is food, water, clothing, shelter, air. It's all breathable. It's all livable. You can have.
I'm not proposing I'm not proposing anything violent. What I'm proposing is a peaceful, cooperative annexation of Mexico, whereby we talk to the Mexican government and ask them, look, we want to help your people, but we can't because you guys are not letting us. Will you guys join us and be part of the United States of America? So we can help your people.
So apparently that happens because that's what the time travelers are saying.
This is what I'm advocating. I'm not advocating anything violent or derogatory towards other human beings. You're basically putting words in my mouth.
No, I've heard you saying that they're criminals. You're demonizing people.
And there are criminals.
There are criminals. There's lots of criminals in the United States. We have more criminals in the United States than anywhere else. They're all in jail. But I think a lot of those people that have been criminalized could probably
violent criminals.
Legalize marijuana, right? And we could actually rehabilitate a lot of these people.
Marijuana is nothing compared to what I'm talking about. I'm a Texan, by the way. Did I mention that?
No, you said you were a Bostonian.
I'm a Texan too.
Yeah,
I was born in Texas, but that's I'm
from Boston, but I mean, I'm a Texas resident. My roots are a lot of them in Texas. Like I'm a Texan. I'm descended from one of the first 300 families that were founders of the Republic of Texas.
The Macintoshes.
No, three other branches of my family were the.
So Mexico is now America, and then we do that for Canada too.
Well, we don't want to make it America, but it can be, it can be part of the United States of America in the same way that Hawaii is not really America, but it's in the United States of America. You know,
Right.
Well, these countries get Americanized once they get absorbed
well,
because they
they
put
don't
McDonald's
have
and
to.
Targets and Home Depots everywhere, so they get Americanized.
Well, they don't have to. I mean, you go from every state. There's still variety. You know,
Well, let's
there's
If
unique
we
culture.
made if we made California, Arizona, and New Mexico neutral zones for both countries, we would be giving California, Arizona, and New Mexico back to Mexico, where it belonged in the first place, and then we would have two border control areas, one on one side where Mexico, one on the other side of California, Arizona, and New Mexico. I think that would give a lot more control, a lot more, I don't know, capabilities for people from Mexico to expand and grow, but also much better behavior. I think you'll even get because they'll have more freedom to express themselves and be themselves. That's what I think would happen. But that's one. That's just me.
I think there definitely just needs to be more cooperation between not just Mexico and the United States, but also Mexico, the United States, and Canada.
Right.
And if we could solve all of each other's problems if we really cooperated, and it could be the most gigantic superpower force for good that the world has ever seen, frankly. And
Wow, exactly. If
Well, I
made
can
them,
get behind that. Yes.
and I'm not advocating. I've never advocated anything violent against anybody. I'm just saying that we do need
Okay,
to
so
learn
we're
how
going
to.
to do a piece. How do we approach
Like,
this?
why would we?
We go to Mexico. We'd like you to be our 51st state. Well, we'll make you 52nd. Puerto Rico will be a state. So you'll be the most gigantic state in the United States. How big is Mexico? That's huge, right?
It's
And
enormous.
you'll be your 52nd state.
And
so
I think
give them-
would
I
be
think
a
the United
federation. We wouldn't be states necessarily, but we would be, instead of a country, we would be a federation, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, like a North American Federation, really, you know, North American Federation of some sort.
Right.
And I mean, look at Canada. They're importing people from countries that have real serious issues because they don't have enough people.
Right.
Canada's only got 30 million people.
Wow.
We could
It
take
is
a lot of
gigantic.
people that want to relocate. This is what I'm saying. We had a big database, and we'd say, okay, so you need to escape your situation where you are. Maybe you're a woman and you're born into a country where they're going to remove my clitoris, and I want to escape. I have people that they don't want to go through the clitorectomy, right? So they want asylum because they don't want to lose their orgasm. This is very critical, right? Because
Right. Wow.
basic rights and a basic right to orgasm. So they want to come here. And I had some people here on my property. I was dealing with this issue, right? So we can grant sanctuary to, in like the Underground Railroad to these people that want to, they don't want to workers anymore, right? So, and then there's places all over. Let's say now we have Mexico and Canada and the United States. There are places where we need populations. Like there's some wonderful, if you ever travel across the states, you see these wonderful old houses that are abandoned. I mean, they're abandoned. People could go in there and love those in storefronts in towns. And we say, okay, we're gonna give you a budget and money. You come and you help revitalize this town here. And then we'll give you money for schools. There's so
much work for people to do. There is so much work to do, and another thing we really need to do is kind of reshape our view on what's considered work, even, because like you can do a lot of work and not get any money for it these days. You know what I'm saying?
I think we should pay women. We should pay people, whoever's staying at home and watching the kids. They should get an income because that's work. They're helping to raise the next generation, and those people that are staying at home taking care of sick people that can't work and elderly that can't work. Everybody should get a living wage because you're working. Just because it's not outside of the home for some boss doesn't mean you're not working. You're working, and you need to survive. Yeah.
So
And one of the
Janet
great
and
things,
Michael, we've got 5 minutes left
Okay.
until
right.
till showtime until this episode ends. But Mike Freya Buddha predicts that he does a forecast, and all of them have come true so far. Does forecast that countries will become one, and we won't even have a need for passports down the road. But you're right on top, Michael. Go ahead. 4 minutes left.
Well,
I mean,
go
you know,
ahead. Let me go ahead.
I just want to say again that,
last 2 minutes. Go ahead.
well, I just want to say again that, you know, I love Mexico. I love the Mexican people, and I wish that there was more that we could do to help them, honestly. And that would not just help them, but it would help the United States if we help Mexico more, because they have problems that they can't deal with, but America could solve them for them. And
Would you tear down the walls and have an open border?
I think the idea of a wall is looking at it from a worst case scenario standpoint. And I think if we can get rid of the problems first, then we don't need a wall. But
Exactly.
I think it might be sensible to have both. But from a sensible standpoint, it might be okay to have both. I don't know.
I just a few years ago, I had a Native American come and stay at my house, and he did some work for me, and he was phenomenal. And then we were going to have him come back every year, but they stopped allowing Native Americans who originally had a passport to go through all the Americans because they're indigenous, right?
Right. Yeah.
We need to reinstate that, because there was nothing wrong with. I mean, this guy was just an amazing person, just traveling around. I haven't seen him since the United States shut off the Native Americans so they couldn't travel across the borders. They had free range to go wherever they wanted to. So, okay.
Real quick, Michael. Real quick. So some of the time travelers talk about increasing our internet network from 4G to 5G to 6G, and then us plugging into the internet with some kind of device like in the Matrix in the back of our head, and downloading everything into our brain, and then they're using the barcode system to identify us, and maybe that's why that we don't need the passports anymore, but to identify us and GPS track us wherever we are. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think if those things come along, and there will be some very advanced technological stuff, it should all be optional and not mandatory.
Got it. Got it.
If you don't want to do that, you shouldn't have to do that. Freedom of choice, right?
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Michael, you sound like a Democrat.
Well, like I've been saying, there's no difference.
You're not my Republican, when I was a Republican, my Democrat friend said, "You're not a Republican, you're a Democrat. Your philosophies are very progressive, Michael." So that's all. I'm just.
Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I mean, I look at Republicanism as something that has lost its way, and we're finding it again.
I actually gave the reincarnation version of Abraham Lincoln, supposedly Abraham Lincoln, a ride to California a few years ago, and it was interesting because he had the beard, the goatee thing, and I just took it with a grain of salt, but it was interesting. But anyhow, 1 minute left.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say my uncle was Gideon Wells, who was the Secretary of the Navy under Lincoln. So my family's been in politics. Anyway, I want to just say thank you, Michael. We can do this again sometime. Sorry I talked over you. Sorry we all talked over. I think we're getting the bugs out of this system. And I'm just challenging you to develop your platform and get it clear, because the clearer you get, the more people will get behind you. And that was the criticism of people like Buttigieg. It's like, you're just talking all this airy-fairy shit. Where's your platform? So, I'm just encouraging you to get your platform up. That's all.
Thanks.
Well,
and aloha.
Look at my YouTube channel. You'll see it pretty clearly spelled out.
Okay, we'll write
Nice.
it up. People were visual. All right. Well,
Aloha.
thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Andrew. Aloha. Thank you, Michael Macintosh. And we'll see you again next week. Aloha. Okay, I'm going to end the meeting, so let me get the recording to stop. Okay.